The lie called parents. Ladies and gentlemen, men and women with children, today you are held accountable to your face for the condition that the world has slithered down into. You see, society is a direct reflection of the parenting practices of its citizens, past, present, and the future. Candidly, I must say, truthfully, whoever the people are that raised this generation of idiots that we see today worldwide have to be the sorriest excuses for parents the world has ever seen. Parents and grandparents alike, both are weak as ice water. Righteous parenting is not a lifestyle choice, it is an ordained covenant that carries the weight of eternity with it, and this generation has broken it shamelessly in broad daylight. The evidence is everywhere you look. You can hear it in the cracked-out language in the homes, you feel it in the rebellious pulse of their culture, you see it in the disjointed cadence of a generation staggering clueless through life without direction. Modern parents have failed miserably in fulfilling their duty, and their failure is not accidental. It is due to strategic neglect masquerading as love. It is emotional laziness unplugged and dressed up as compassion. In truth, it is actually hatred wrapped up in soft words and digital screen distractions. The Almighty did not authorize this form of weak subpar leadership in the family or the household. He does not endorse this brand of neglectful parenting. He established a righteous kingdom model built on obedience, built on discipline, built on a righteous structure, and relentless correct scriptural teachings. He commanded that the words of his commandments be taught diligently to the children in every family, meaning consistently, intentionally, and with the force of daily reinforcement. Not suggested, not casually referred to, not postponed until the child is old enough, but delivered with the precision of heavenly governance, every morning, every evening, every rising up, and even at the time of rest. Righteous parents walk in ordained authority without apology. Modern-day parents walk in shame without accountability. Righteous parents command their households as Abraham did, gaining righteous recognition for their leadership. Modern-day parents negotiate with their children like frightened little interns trying to appease a hostile takeover of management. They fear rejection. They chase after validation. They withhold correction because the child might feel bad. Really? Yet Yahweh says plainly, the parent who refuses to discipline their children hates their child, not disliked, not misunderstands, but hates, because withholding discipline is withholding the very mechanism that spares a soul's life from destruction. Today's parents have institutionalized this subtle form of hatred. They spare the rod, then have the nerve to demand peace. They avoid setting boundaries, then complain about rebellion. They sow permissiveness, and then expect obedience. They give freedom without restraint, and wonder why chaos blooms like poison in their household. A child left to himself brings shame, and the world is now drowning in that very shame, broadcasted, monetized, and is normalized on every city street and social platform. Look at the metrics of today's collapsing generation. Disrespect is the common currency. Discipline is foreign. Identity confusion thrives like a market giving away food. Entitlement is rising while honor is vanishing. Children speak to their parents with a boldness that would have been unthinkable in previous generations. Teenagers challenge authority with pride rather than fear. Little ones are affirmed in foolishness rather than corrected in the truth. While these so-called parents stand back, smiling nervously, hoping they will grow out of it. They won't. Not without righteous governance. Not without parental courage. Not without discipline fueled by a righteous covenant of obedience. The world is not watching incidents of random decay. It is witnessing the fruit of neglected households across the board. Every protest, every riot, every trend of confusion, every escalation of emotional instability, every public meltdown, and every moral collapse is a performance review of failed parenting. The home is the launching pad of any nation. When the home loses structure, the culture of a nation loses its spine of righteousness. Righteous parenting, on the other hand, is a disciplined art form. It is a strategically holy system. It trains a child in the way one trains a soldier, through repetition, with boundaries, with correction, with vision, and a righteous spiritual structure. Train up a child in the way he should go, not suggest the path, not expose him to multiple options, not wait until he chooses. Train, mold, shape, form, command. That level of loving leadership requires courage, something that is absent in many modern-day households. Today's parents are exhausted, not because their children are strong-willed, but because they themselves are inconsistent. They attempt discipline once, possibly twice, and then they collapse under pressure. Then they blame external influences for what their own weakness has cultivated. They create emotional consumers instead of spiritual heirs. They raise children fluent in technology, but illiterate in righteousness. Youths who can navigate a digital landscape but are oblivious to righteous moral character. Children who know trends but not the truth. Teenagers who drown in their feelings but dare not wade in obedience. Yahweh built parenting to function with backbone, not with knowledgeless human softness, with spiritual clarity, not carnal confusion, with responsibility and not excuses. The world is paying the price for abandoning that design. In these last days, Scripture warned that children would be disobedient to parents, not because children have changed, but because parents became weak, cowardly, heartless, and surrendered. They surrendered their authority, they surrendered righteous standards, and they surrendered the spiritual gates of their home. They allowed entertainment to educate their children. They let peers do the shaping that parents were commanded to do. They allowed public systems to install values contrary to Yahweh's commands. They traded discipline for comfort. They traded spiritual order for emotional convenience. Then they act surprised when chaos rises like a flood. Righteous parents, if there are any left out there, must reclaim the throne of their household, standing as the priests and executives of their household culture. They must monitor every influence, guard every doorway, and filter every voice. They must be consistent in correction, unwavering in instruction, unashamed in authority. They must love their children enough to discipline them, love them enough to say no, love them enough to restrain them, love them enough to protect them from themselves, love them enough to save their future by shaping their present. This is not cruelty, it is covenant loyalty. It is strategic mercy. It is generational foresight. Because discipline today is preservation for tomorrow. The world reveals its parents. Every generation is a mirror held up to the households that shaped it. And this generation reflects parents who refuse to lead. Parents who chose comfort over correction. Parents who desired friendship instead of authority. Parents who replaced prayer with entertainment and standards with opinions. But righteous parents, those aligned with Yahweh's design for the family, must produce children anchored in the truth, children grounded in discipline, children stable in their ordained identity, children strong in obedience to righteousness and ready to inherit an eternal kingdom. They must produce order in a world of disorder, stability in a culture of collapse, light in an age of dark confusion. The verdict is clear. Righteous parenting is not an old method of loving your children. It is the only method. Righteous discipline is not abuse. It is life-saving correction. Parental authority is not optional. It is an ordained must. Therefore, any parent who abandons these commandments is not showing love to their children. They are demonstrating hatred disguised as softness. Yahweh holds parents accountable for their households, and the world as it stands today is the smoking evidence that accountability has been ignored. But those who hear this message, those who rise up and restore righteous discipline, will break a generational curse, rebuild stable lines, and reflect the covenant order Yahweh Almighty intended from the very beginning. The future belongs to those who parent righteously, boldly, without apology, and without compromise. In Messiah's name, service, and right hand, so be it.